Good morning, folks. This is Billy from Real Time Fishing and Real Time Custom Rods. I've kind of bled over into the rod building. I've been doing it a little while on my own and decided I'd start filming some of it. Today I'm doing something a little different. I've got a deep sea offshore slow jig jigging rod, 20 to 50 pound tested. I'm just getting it set up. I've already put the EVA handle on the rear. I've arbored out the reel seat. I'm mixing up some glue right now, and we're going to glue this thing on. These arbors just keep it good and simple, or straight I should say. They don't hold it on, they just keep it as a guide, really. So that's where we're at right now. I'm going to walk you through some of this build. It's new to me, never done one like this, so stay tuned. Okay, I got the epoxy here, the glue all mixed up. Going to apply it to where my rod reel seat is going to go. I've roughed this up with some sandpaper and even a fine file. Sure that it sticks real good. I've never had a problem with it not sticking. So you just lather this up real good. I've marked where my reel starts, arbored out accordingly. So I'm sure this will go pretty smooth, this little process here. And I'm not selfish with this. You may notice I put on some rubber gloves. I'd recommend that. My skin, the more I did this, whether it be epoxy or this glue, developed I'm gonna say a rash. My wife calls it the hives. I don't know if you call it the hives, but it's a rash that takes a while to get rid of. Putting all kinds of stuff from the dermatologist on there and things like that to get rid of it, and he recommended I wear some gloves, so I'm not going to argue with him. I'm past that age of arguing. So here I've marked where my spline is, right on top of this, and I'm going to twist this in nice and neat. I think I got plenty on here. I think I'm gonna go back and put some more, just to be sure. You want that to be good and full. Don't want any dry spots or anything. I got plenty of this. So okay, I went back and put a piece of tape around the threads on my reel seat. Just makes good sense. Keeps all the glue out of the thread area. So thought I'd go back and do that. Up this way. So I've got my spline marked up here where I'm working. This is going to be a acid wrapped or a spiral wrapped rod, so my guide's going up underneath the rod down there. So that's what this spine lines up with, that area down there. Okay, I got the EVA foam all lathered up here, and I'm gonna slide this down into place, hopefully with one fell swoop, and it goes. Well, folks, that was a job, I'm telling you. I don't think I reamed it out quite enough. I did get it down. I've got this clamp on there holding it down. It's what they want to do, is they want to walk back up the rod, because the diameter, of course, is narrower there than it is down here. It was a fight. You saw some of it. You didn't see all of it. I don't know if I'm going to show it to you or not. Anyway, I'm going to go get some lunch. I'm going to let that set up for a couple hours, and I'm going to start laying out the guides. Okay, as you can see, got everything mounted. I've got the front EVA foam handle on, the American tackle size 24 reel seat, and the rear. So we've got this thing in the on the workbench here. We're going to be laying out the guides, spiral wrapped, acid wrapped. And the beauty in that is this is a very, like I said, a deep sea fishing rod, slow jig in deep water. And what you need is when you're jigging is you want those guides on the bottom of this rod blank, just like you would a spinning situation, but you want the power of a large offshore casting reel. So that's the idea of a spiral wrap. It's going to start out on top, and then three guides later it'll be on the bottom of the blank where you can fight the fish and the line is pulling down on the guides instead of trying to get that rod to twist one way or the other. Okay, we're continuing on the rod. I've done a static test where I temporarily take the guides to the blank, saw how the line was going to feed through that, made some adjustments. You're going to make sure when you make this static test that the line doesn't hit the rod in any way and it flows through as smooth as possible. So I've done some underlayments already. I'm doing an underlayment on the guides to help protect. What that does is as that rod flexes, these underlayments will help protect the rod itself from the feet of the guide flexing. So that's what I'm in the process of doing right now. And after we do that, we'll probably continue to do another static test, make sure everything's lining up real good. Get this thing right here, which it should. Do all your homework up front. One thing about rod building, do your stuff up front. It usually works out pretty good when you get time to do the next step. Can't get in a hurry. Got a gray going here, it's a black rod. I'm going to be selling this rod, or trying to. Got a gray underlayment, I've got a maroon or wine colored accent color that's going to go on this. Then I'm going to put some fancy, hopefully some, for lack of a better term, I'll say bling, further down on the butt. Custom rod should look like a custom rod, so I like to do a little bit of extra stuff in there. It's just my theory. So I finished the under wrap, and like I was explaining to you, I'll put the guides on top of that. It'll look something like this, and then we're going to wrap them in the maroon color, which is one of my favorite colors. Like I said, the rod is for sale. If you want to talk to me about buying this rod, it's a offshore jigging rod. It's rated for 20 to 50 pounds. It's going to be brand spanking new. It's going to have never been wet. It's got Fuji guides on it, heavy duty, stainless. Real good setup here for somebody. I'm going to be selling it fairly cheap. I'm going to probably sell it for maybe 200 bucks, 225. It would probably retail for somewhere in the 350 or 375 range. Continuing with the guides, I'm going to the next one now. I've laid it out. We'll just swing through these. And something I forgot to mention, if you folks ever have a question or anything at all from me, leave me a comment in the comments, and I'll get back to you. Somebody once told me the only bad question is the one that you don't ask. So there are no bad questions, there are no stupid questions. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find it out. The trolling motor's still on the blink. course, it's not the best time of the year in the world to go fishing anyway here in eastern North Carolina. We got heat advisories coming up for the next few weeks. Few days rather, I'm sorry. Fishing's not that great when it's this hot. And I'm really enjoying this rod building now. One thing about it, I retired first part of May. Started doing this rod build in May of 23, depending on when you hear this. And I was fortunate enough to have all the time in the world to work on this stuff. It's not like I've got to go to work, come home, and spare time and do this. Okay, pull this string through here and move on to the next one. Okay, I'm putting epoxy on these under wraps now. And the way I do it, well, everybody's got a different opinion on how to do this, but the way I do it is I saturate them. The first coat is on real heavy. And what I'll do is I go back and then I let it run. I'll stop the dryer, stop the rod from twirling. The reason I do it the way I do it, the rods were getting what I call that football shape at the end. They come out the next morning, they look like a football, and I didn't like that. This looked really unprofessional. So I started just saturating them. And once the epoxy sits up, it wants to run fairly thick, which doesn't take long. This is high build epoxy. So I got to kind of rush to get it on there anyway. And it's already getting a little thick on me. And I'll show you in a minute what I do. Just saturating it good and thorough. And I always put 2 coats on everything. Since these are under wraps, it'll get this coat. I'll let it dry for a day. And it makes for a nice smooth surface when I come back to do my threads tomorrow. If you don't do that, your threads actually get down in between other threads and you don't get quite as smooth a look. Okay, I've got all the epoxy on. Now I'm going to stop the spinning and just see what comes to the bottom. Some right now on the bottom of these, which indicates I've got just a little too much, which I knew I would. What I'll also do is get it going one more turn. Stop it. And just reach under and scrape that little bit off. I also like to put a little heat on it at this stage. Not much, doesn't take much. Gets air bubbles out. Air gets in between the threads, believe it or not, and those bubbles will surface over time. So I heat it up, get all what air bubbles out that I can that's already in the epoxy. There shouldn't be any. When I get through, I'll have perfectly straight, just the right amount of epoxy. One of these. What I'm doing now, I'm going back and I'm putting some decorative trim under the guides. It'll kind of sit like this. It's kind of decorative. This was actually an afterthought. I should have done it when I did the under wrap, but I'm going back and adding it. If you make them wide enough, you can do that. So that's what I'm doing. So as we build this rod, we've got some more stuff. We're going to lay out the guides here a little bit later on that spiral or that acid wrap, and we'll explain that to you too. It's kind of interesting. Laying out the guides now on this acid wrapped rod, and I got this little handy dandy protractor angle locator off of Amazon. I think I paid between 10 and 11 bucks for it. Got this little guide aid set up from Mudhole. I think I paid 5 or 6 for it. So what I do, we got the first guide on top. It's at 90 degrees or at 0 degrees, just like this is. The next one's going to be at 45. So I'll just take this, rotate it down till it reads 45. When I do that, then the next one actually sits dead center to top. But it's 45 degrees off of the reel setup. So I'm still eyeballing what is dead center on the top. That's a whole lot easier than trying to figure out 45. Next angle will be at 90. Put my little angle finder here. Well, it actually goes to 0 as I started at 90. And when that reads 0, then the next guide is on dead center top again. And we will place that one on dead center top and work our way right on down the... Okay, I've got the guides laid out. Like I said, I've gone from dead 0, which is the guy that comes off of the reel, turned it 45 degrees, then another 45, went straight to 90, and that got us all the way on top. So in about 15 inches or so, we went from having the reel on top, the guides on top and the reel on top, to the guides on bottom with the reel on top. And that's how you do it. Okay, we got the first guide on here. First guide off the reel. Got the single wrap here. I don't know if I'm gonna double wrap them or not. Then we're going to continue on down. I've got these taped temporarily in place, as you can see. And I'm just taking my time moving along. Okay, here's the finished product. It's a heavy duty offshore jigging slash bottom fishing for those big fish out there. It's rated from 20 to 50 pounds. Everything's heavy duty. Size 24. Reel seat, rail rod. Put this under your arm. It's just a really nice rod. The components are all American tackle. It can be yours.
Mm-hmm.